What's up? Welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to share you the fastest way I made £120,000 without actually owning a house. If you really want to hack this formula, I'd recommend you watch the video until the end. But before I get there, I've realized there's so many people watching our videos that have not really hitting that like button or subscribing to our channel. So if you're one of those, please smash that like button, subscribe to our channels for more amazing videos. So, suppose you are in a crossroad, you are looking to invest in properties, but you're not really sure, whilst again you're working but it's not fulfilling, or maybe you are actually in a job where you're getting a good pay, but you're really worried that you're either one paycheck away from being broke, or you're worried that one day your manager would let go of you and that's the only source of income you have, and you're looking to kind of find a way to make additional passive recurring income, or say additional income, whilst maybe still working if you love your job, and or to plan a way to actually quit the rat race. If that's who you are and you really want to do that, this video is for you. Make sure you watch it until the end to get the benefit of it. So it's very important in order for us to be successful, and also in order to us to know what we need to do to get us to the level where we want to get at financially. Right, I like to use properties because properties is the thing I do, and property is the thing that gets me to financial freedom and ultimate financial independence. So I like to draw your attention to that because, again, real estate is a real thing, right? It's something that you could use for your lifetime and for other people's lifetime, and it's one of the fastest way or quickest sustainable way that you could make income, and being able to actually use that as a passive income as well. So in this video, I'm just not going to show you how to make this income and then just for 1 year or maybe 6 months and then you walk away from it. No, I'm going to share with you exactly what you need to do in order to make that strategy, or what I'm going to share with you, work for you for a lifetime or for as long as you'd ever want it to be. Now, property investment is something that people like to take as a hobby, but for me personally, I love it, and I also take it a little bit serious as well, because I know it's a business end of the day. So if you want to start, if you would like to make £120,000 in properties, especially properties that you don't even own, this is what you need to do. The first thing we need to do, we need to identify the up and coming areas where there's high growth, where there's a good market trend, or where it's about to become very good in terms of market, where you're anticipating that maybe property price is going to go up in that area, or maybe there's higher rental demand in that area. These places could be where there's less expensive houses and there's higher demand in rental areas. Let me explain to you this. In order for you to be able to justify that, you want to look for where properties are not that too expensive, right? Because if they're not too expensive, what that means basically, you're able to get that property and rent it at a higher rate, and there's a demanding areas for that, okay? Especially if you're looking to rent the property to a certain type of market, okay? So once you've identified where the high growth area is, what you now need to do is to do a little bit of market research in that investment area. Because suppose, let's take Liverpool for example. If you want to invest in Liverpool, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go like all over Liverpool looking for houses like that. So what you could look for a specific area. It could be Merseyside, it could be wherever you want to look for that specific area. And what you then do, you do a laser focus in that area to understand which part of that area there is a demand. Is this making sense? So look at part of that area. Okay, is it Merseyside or whatever you want to invest in? What is that area like? What advantage do I take in that marketed area? So once you know that market area, and then check whether it fits your criteria. Very important. Here is why it's important. It's because you don't want to go and look for a property that is not part of your investment criteria. Investment criteria could be, okay, I will not be buying a property that worth over £150,000, for example. So you need to understand that. So if you're not buying property that worth £150,000, there's no need for you to go and look for properties that worth £300,000, because you know then that's not your criteria. So you laser focus in that sort of criteria to understand that, yes, this is what I want to do, this is the property I want to buy, and also what you want to look at is basically, do I actually need to to do some work in these properties? Okay, do I need to do something to the property? If you have to do something in the property, brilliant. If you don't, fine. If you're looking at the property in a way that you want to rent it in order to rent it out, meaning, I know it may not make sense if you don't know about this strategy, is basically where you rent it from a struggling landlord and then you rent it out either room by room basis or as a service recommendation. Okay, so you're going to look at it that way. Is there a market for that actual strategy that you're looking at? Is that something that you really want to drill on to understand what you need to do? Right? So that is your criteria. And in the back of your head, you're also looking for properties that you may be able to buy in order to expedite your investment process. I will talk to you about that part later on in this video. So once you've determined that area is a very good area to kind of invest in, either by renting or buying the properties in that area, the next thing you need to do is this. If you haven't got money to start, is to look for way to source the income or the money you need, the way to finance the money you need. Now this is important because some people may be saying, oh, I haven't got the money. Right, I get you, I hear you. If you do not get the money, so what resources, who can you tap into that could help you raise that funds in order to get you started, right? It could be maybe a family friend. It could be a family member, your wife, your partners, your boyfriends, girlfriends. It could be the bank, for example. Right? You can go to the bank and borrow that money as long as you know you're not spending that money to go on holiday, you're actually using that money to invest. It's a good investment, right? And look for the people, look for someone or investor or an angel investor who you would work with on a lower interest basis. Right? Suppose you've got that funding now, right? You've got, maybe you want to do a rent to rent in this example. Let's say a rent to rent. You only needed about probably maybe £5,000, okay? So you've got that £5,000, so you're going to hold that £5,000. You then, in your investment area, you secure that property with that £5,000. Let me explain to you this. You're not going to use all the £5,000 to hopefully rent that property if you know what you're doing. So what you could do, in average, you may be able to rent the property for about, if you're looking at the 4 or 5 bedroom house or maybe 3 bedroom house, you're looking at about £850 to about £1,000 in Liverpool area, right? So what you now want to do basically is to use, let's get the figures very easy and nice. Let's say then the rental income in that area is about maybe £1,000, okay? So what you now need to do, if from the £5,000 you'd already raised, you would pay the landlord £1,000 deposit, and you pay the landlord another £1,000 rent. Okay, so you've left over with about £3,000. Okay, £3,000 is a lot of money. I promise you this. So with that £3,000 is what you would use then to, guess what? To set the property up. Maybe to paint and decorate it, buy furniture, buy TVs, white goods and all that sort of thing, right? Just to bring the property to a nicer feel to your target market. If you're very smart, you may not be able to, you may not spend that £3,000. You may only pay about, you may invest about £2,000 and you got £1,000 left over as a buffer. Why do you need that £1,000 left over as a buffer? You need that just in case you're not able to rent your property within a month, right? So you may have void, you may have not been able to start making money yet. So you've got that £1,000 as a contingency to help you pay the rent should you not be able to start making enough money to pay your landlord. I hope that makes sense. On to the next one. You would have then set the property up nicely. You know, it looks amazing and everybody want to live in it as well as yourself. If you set up a property and you could not live there yourself, you haven't done your job right. Make sure it has all the basic needs, everything that you do in it looks really, really nice. I'm not asking you to go and spend a while going to IKEA, buy some expensive furniture. No, you can go and buy reasonable, nicely furniture based on your target market. Now this is important. You only renovate your property based on your target market. Don't go AWOL, don't go with emotions, go with your target market. You would have then renovated the property. The next thing you do, assuming that you don't really have time to manage tenant, right? Assuming that you're a very busy person, or maybe you want it to be an investment in sort of a part-time job, what you could do, you can then set this property up as if you're renting it as a hotel. You use it as an Airbnb, in other words, okay? So what you do, you set it up nicely, you have it really nice, done nicely, crispy done. So what you do, instead of renting the property out to individual people, you use that property as what we call serviced accommodation. You may know it as Airbnb. So what you do, instead of renting the property that way, you're renting the property on a nightly basis. In a nightly basis, what that means basically, guests will check into your property, they pay you in advance before they even checked into your property, and they stay in your property for 3 or 4 nights, sometimes weeks. If they stay that long, then obviously they'll be paying on the nightly, not on a weekly or monthly basis. And again, you make more money that way instead of renting it room by room basis. And again, in average, nightly rate in Liverpool, in those areas, is about 100 to 130 pounds a night. So you may be asking, whoa, how am I going to be able to fill that property for 30 to 29 days a month? Well, you don't need the property to be occupied for 29 to 30 days, because obviously you're charging back per night. So you may have maybe 60 to 70% occupancy rate. If you're lucky, 80%. That is more than enough in order to be able to pay your landlord, pay all your expenses, and maybe make about £2,000. So in this example, I don't want to touch on £2,000. I just want to go lower to the worst case scenario. Let's just assume then you got about maybe 40 to 50% occupancy rate. In that basis, if you know what you're doing, if you've educated yourself and you're really good in what you're doing, you should be making minimum of £1,000 net profit, right? Minimum of £1,000 net profit in that specific deal. So what you then do, basically, you do that property up nicely, right? Once you've done it nicely, you set it up, you'll be making £1,000 a month in that property, right? You need to be making that much money, okay? So once you've made that money, again, what you do, you replicate the same process, okay? Maybe this is month 2 or month 3, or maybe you had £10,000 in the beginning in the first place. You go for a second property. You do the same thing, you do the third property. You do the same thing, you do the fourth property, go to the fifth property. So imagine now you've got 5 properties, and each of these properties generating average about £1,000 a month. So if you times that by 5, you're making £5,000 per calendar month in properties that you don't even own. You may be thinking, this sounds like a scam, right? It's not a scam, okay? It is absolutely truth, right? You could literally get a landlord to rent a property out to you, and you do it as an Airbnb, okay? The key things to note here is you need to start doing that before the government start making legislation on it, because they're in the process of legislation, all this sort of thing. So you need to be getting into this market before the government start putting their fingers into it, okay? So now, suppose we've got those five properties, okay? Now we know we're making £5,000 a month, okay? £5,000 a month times 12, you're talking about £60,000 there. So we're halfway there, okay? We are halfway there. If you remember what I've also said earlier when I'll talk you through how to do the other part. Now you've got that part, now you know that area. That area becomes like your palm, basically. You know how good that area is. So what you now need to do, basically, you need to start looking for the properties. If you remember what I told you, £150,000 properties, look for those properties below those properties. And what you then do, you go then and get these properties, assuming they are properties that you need to do up, because I like do up properties. I don't buy done up properties because obviously there's nothing I could do with it. I like to add value, significant value in properties. So what you then do, if you're one of those, you go and look for those properties, right? You see properties that you can renovate, add value to, right? Again, you do the same thing. You secure finance from who? Family and friends. Or maybe now you've got enough money from your SAs that you could use to start buying your own houses. If you know what you're doing, you could do this, okay? So you got that property now, right? Assuming you bought that property, right? You bought the property, you had to decorate, you had to renovate the property, you had to have a new bathroom, new kitchen, new everything, new doors, curtain boards, everything. Literally, you're renovating the property to a crispy, nicely modern property for your target market. Okay, suppose you buy that property. So what you need to do then, basically, because you want to have a quick cash, instead of holding the property, you can flip it. What do I mean by flipping? You can sell the property at profit. Okay, you can sell the property at profit. So if you know how to do it really well, if you know how to flip property, you'll be making anywhere between 30 to about 45,000 pounds net profit for selling the property. If you're not making 25 to 40,000 pounds profit in a property that you're fixing to sell, it's not worth your time. Again, if you know what you're doing, you should be making minimum of 30,000 pounds net profit per property. So you do that property up. Once you've done that property, make sure you do it within 2 to 3 months, no longer than that, because you want to add significant value and walk away from it, right? Whilst you're doing that process, now this is important. Whilst you're renovating the property, you know that you're not going to be remortgaging it. That is the time you need to approach estate agency to help you sell the property when it becomes available, right? When it becomes available. So what you could do, approach an estate agent, not just one, approach 1, 2, 3. If you have chance, do 4 estate agency. Get them to say, listen, I've got this property. I've bought a property. It's a dilapidated house. I bought it as 3 bedroom, converting it into 4 bedroom, 2 reception rooms. It has an office. It's an amazing property. How much do you think this property would worth once I finish doing it? They may ask you, I want to go and see it. Say, no, I'm about to finish it off. What do you reckon that market rate would be? You would have done this due diligence anyways at the beginning, but what you just want to get reassurance that it's still the right thing to do. So once they've given you their figures, don't go for the estate agent that said you're going to get over what you way over what you're expecting, because what they would do, they want to get contract from you. Hence the reason why they're asking, the reason why they're saying the property is that price. So if you know they're just chatting BS, what you do, look for the most reasonable agent that you relate to, get them to start marketing the property straight away. You may be asking, how do they market the property if I haven't finished work? Nowadays we've got people that can do some graphic design of what you visualize that property is going to look like. Because if you know what you're doing, you will know how the property will look like in your head, because you'll be telling people what they need to do. So what you do, you get a graphic designer to actually design the property nicely, make it virtual, and you get that information, you send it to the agent. So what happened now, the agent will start marketing the property on that basis. Okay, get the agent to write as a disclaimer saying this is just a show, it looks like a show home. If you're not selling it with furniture, tell them those furniture included in that ad is not really their furniture, it's just to show how the property may look like once it's completed. So you get the agents to go to work straight away, right? By then you're nearly done, right? So as soon as you finish, get the agent to come around to take photos. So once they've taken photos, guess what? They're going to go and upload those photos online and then get your property to sell. This is very important. Listen to this, because if you bought the property in the right location, it may take a little bit of time in the market to be sold. So it usually takes about 4 to 8 weeks to be able to sell a property, okay? So what you could do then, basically, you need to know that area where you could do that, because anything over, say, 2-3 months is eating into your profit, because we have something that we call holding cost, okay? So you don't want to be having to expend by like paying electricity, gas, council tax, and all that sort of thing. So you get that property flipped. If you had chance to make £50,000, don't be greedy. Say you want the top notch for that property, right? Reduce it. Remember, your magic figure is £30,000. As long as you can flip that property quickly, it's better to sell it at £30,000 profit than £50,000 profit, because I can see people getting greedy here. Okay, so you get that property flipped. Whilst that property is going through sales, your essays would have generated you more money again. So what you do, you use your essays money, and again, investor, you go again buy another property. Okay, you do exactly the same thing you did in the first property. You add value, renovate it, decorate it. Guess what? Put it back on the market. Exactly the same thing. By the time you finish that work, your property would have sold the first one. That's £30,000 in your bag. Okay, you've got that £30,000 in your bag now. So now you wait for the other property to sell. Hopefully, before you hit the 12 month, right, or the 8th month, the second property has sold, and that means you've got 2 properties you've sold for £30,000 each, and that is £60,000 you would have made by flipping those 2 properties. And guess what? The other properties, the service accommodation property you would have acquired, would have generated you £60,000 in the 12 months. So put those two together, that gives you £120,000 in properties that you did not even own. This is how you could make lots of money in property. If working for someone you don't like, these are the sort of things that you could do. And again, if you love what you're doing and you'd really love it, you could do this as a side hustle. Then at least you're not relying on your employer to make the income that you need to meet your lifestyle. If you implement what I've just advised in here, this is based on experience, by the way. I'm going to do a disclaimer here. I'm not saying it's going to work for you, but it has worked for me and it's worked for investors that I work with. If you implement it, it would help you. But before you do this, very important, write this down. Seek advice from a trusted person. Get someone to mentor you, guide you, coach you, to help you through the process, okay? Just in case if you made mistake, or someone to guide you, accelerate the process. Because if you want to do this on your own, you may struggle to do it. But if you've got someone who's already gone through these stages, they would help you along the way to get you to where you want to go. So if this is something that you really want to do, do not just watch this video and do not take action. Either get someone to mentor you, coach you, train you to make this happen. If you want me to mentor or coach you, feel free to contact me on the description below. There's a link there where you can book me a free strategy call where we can go a bit more talking about different property strategies and this strategy itself. But you don't have to be me. You can get someone else. This is just an idea to help you make that decision, to help you make that additional income. I really hope this video has been helpful. If this video has been helpful, don't forget to smash that like button below and subscribe to my channel for more amazing videos.